Disclude? Is that a word? It's a word now. Disclude. Anyone. It's exclude. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Kez. There's some unicorns behind me. Together, that makes Kez and unicorns. We're doing great. Today's featured unicorn is Rosalie. Rosalie is beautiful. She is from Germany. She is ein Einhorn. I'm
a unicorn!
Und Einhorn.
I'm a unicorn!
Das gut. I'm sorry to every German person. I can't speak German. Pero yo puedo hablar español. Sorry about that. Welcome back to, depending on if it's your first time or not, Unicorn Corner. Unicorn Corner is my safe space where we talk about mental health, and we're talking about Trisha Paytas. I'm sure that's no surprise. If you would like to know more about me and my mental health journey, I'll add a link up here so you can watch that. But
this video will include a lot of sensitive topics that could be triggering to some. So if you are particularly sensitive to darker sides of life, then this may not be the right video for you, but this will not be going into a lot of detail. It will just be touching lightly on these topics. Proceed at your own risk.
I don't really know where to start with this.
I had already filmed this before Trisha Paytas released the third video in her DID series, where she supposedly shows a switch caught on camera. Now, in order to actually be anywhere near in control of her triggers, she would need to have gone through extensive therapy, which, if she's self-diagnosed, then she most certainly has not, and therefore she would not have any control over these switches, much less any communication and understanding between each of these alters, because of the amnesic walls that dissociative identity disorder has. The alters, I don't really feel right calling them alters because I don't believe that's the correct term in this case, but the personalities that she's showing are incredibly stereotypical, which is incredibly damaging and stigmatizing to the already stigmatized DID community, and is also damaging those of us with other mental health disorders such as personality disorders, PTSD, and eating disorders, which we see at the end of that switch caught on camera video. I am also aware that Trisha decided to upload a video in which she makes a big point of saying that no one should think that they have the right to tell anyone that they are faking, but then goes on to imply that many people think that Dissociative is faking, and ends the video by referring to Dissociative as a con artist that is just looking to make money and gain subscribers. Yes, Dissociative's channel has gained around 200,000 subscribers at the moment, from what I can see, but that is not because they are conning people. It is because they are an incredibly compassionate system. They educate people and try to make DID more accessible. So yeah, Trisha calling Dissociative crazy and then calling Dissociative a con is not gonna get you what you want, and it is not okay. I do still stand by a lot of the points that I made in this video, which is why I'm still posting it, but I am aware that this has happened. With that said, let's get into the video.
Trish. Oh God, Trish, why? What is in my head? Oh.
The wig is from Rockstar Wigs, in case you're wondering.
So I'm sure you know about Trisha Paytas and her recent video, Meet My Alters, Dissociative Identity Disorder. Okay, I'm coming at this from, I am a woman with borderline personality disorder. I also have an eating disorder, as well as other things. So borderline personality disorder is incredibly stigmatized in the world, but dissociative identity disorder is quite possibly the most stigmatized disorder. Borderline personality disorder and dissociative identity disorder have two things in common. One, both can have episodes of dissociation. A lot of us dissociate, not disassociate. I'm not.
What were you doing there, Trish?
Like, seriously. Disassociate? Anyway, it is very common to dissociate with borderline personality disorder. I would say I have dissociated a few times. There is a whole period of time around when my mum committed suicide when I was 15 that I thought I remembered very well, and then upon going back to kind of talk about it, I realised I don't know shit. What happened? How did I pass my GCSEs? Where did my life go? I committed suicide, and that is probably a very similar to dissociation in the sense that I was literally like out of my body, and I was looking at my body, and I was like screaming to like just get up and do something, and my body was like, no bitch, you did this, deal with it.
Well, I tried to be reasonable.
People dissociate anyway. The dissociative system explains the way people dissociate very well, which is that a lot of people, you know, you might get home from work and you almost go into autopilot, so you like go and make yourself a nice cup of tea or coffee, because I like me some coffee. You sit down on the sofa, you put your feet up, you watch that TV show, and then suddenly that TV show's finished and you're like, where did the last 20 minutes go? Happens all the time. I know it's a common trope, but you know, when guys are like watching the football and you're like yelling at them like, hey, can you help me with this? And they're just like, that's probably very slight dissociation, when you basically feel like the world isn't real. With DID, you dissociate to the point that amnesic walls are built because of childhood trauma, and your personality is not able to combine into one whole personality as it would for most people between the ages of 7 and 9. While people with borderline personality disorder can dissociate, it is nowhere near on the same spectrum as people with DID.
Good job!
For the purposes of the rest of this video, I'm just going to say DID and BPD. I would use emotionally unstable personality disorder because that is technically what I was diagnosed with, but it means the same thing, and apparently, you know, clinical lingo doesn't know what it's doing. Look at my teddy bear earrings.
Stop it. Get some help.
The other thing that BPD and DID have in common is that they are both caused as a result of childhood trauma. DID forms that a child has suffered through repeated trauma, and to survive, the brain can do amazing things. The brain puts up amnesic walls, and therefore the parts of the brain that would usually combine, that's not the word I wanted, but we'll go with it, combine, don't. And you end up having multiple alters meaning altered state of consciousness, from what I understand. Now, I am not an expert in this. I do know my stuff about BPD and anorexia and chronic pain, because these are all things that I suffer from, but I'm not an expert in DID. I've just been researching it for this video. People with DID go through intense childhood trauma and the brain can't handle it. There is a film, I can't remember the name of it, but I will stick it here somewhere, and this boy, he's probably about 8 or 9, and he is forced to pick between staying with his dad or getting on the train with his mum. And I'm just going to put a time code like here, so if you don't want spoilers to this movie, just jump to this time. Okay, spoiler alert. The movie then continues, the boy grows up, and the boy grows to be a very ripe old age. It transpires that this entire movie, this like century, all of these characters, everything was created in a split second in that boy's brain, because he could not handle the fact that he was being forced to choose between which parent he wanted to be with. And I think that's a really good example, actually, of it. Obviously, there are movies like Split. I love Split, but if you look at that, if you look at Hide and Seek, and there was that one, Identity, I think it's called, where they're all at the motel and there's like a little kid, and it turns out they're all personalities in someone's mind, and he's trying to kill them off, which looking into the DID community now and looking at the way that DID is understood, that film, it makes me feel some kind of way. I don't like it.
System K also talked about how when they were in treatment for an eating disorder, the staff and the nurses would tell them that they were making them up, that they were lying, that they were not allowed to talk about their alters or say their alters' names, and they were not allowed to let those alters come to the front. And the fact that that is happening within the healthcare system that is supposed to be helping these people, I think really shows how stigmatized DID is and how much it is going to affect the whole community when someone is called out and called crazy in front of millions of people, which is basically what Trisha did.
The idea of the host, the person who fronts the body the most, being told to kill these alters is it's I might seem like I'm going over the top, but it's kind of murder. These alters have all grown, they are all individual, they have different accents, they know what they look like, they have their own dreams. Horror movies do like to take, tropes that they know that will work, and multiple personality disorder, or DID, seems to be something that fascinates a lot of people, and I think that's why it's used a lot. But it is damaging to the DID community, especially because I have watched a number of systems talk about their DID, and more than one of them has explained that when they have told someone that they have DID, the person has gone, which is the bad one?
Do I need to leave the room? Are you going to switch and murder me?
Anyway, the reason I'm saying all of this right now is to give you a basic understanding of the situation that is going on. I want you to understand what DID is, and as I said, I'm coming at it from BPD. BPD is also caused through childhood trauma.
That was funny.
That was funny. Let's go do it to somebody else.
The main difference is that it happens mainly in your teenage years or your early adulthood. So for example, with me, I had trauma throughout my entire life because my mum suffered from very severe depression. She was an alcoholic, she had disordered eating, and she struggled a lot. And she did her best, and I remember a lot of my childhood as being great, but I can't remember many bad bits, which there were obviously bad bits, But then when my mum died, when my mum killed herself, my brain just, it did what it did, and here we are, and I have borderline personality disorder.
Boom! I win!
That does not mean I'm a manipulative bitch. I feel some way about that. Check out this video if you want to know why. Trisha's been known for constantly trying to attention seek, which actually would be a very common trait of someone with HPD, or histrionic personality disorder, which is when you really need attention. I am not an expert, but if you look at a lot of these YouTubers, Trisha Paytas, Nikocado Avocado, even Tana Mojo, these people all have this insurmountable desire to be seen. But I'm not one to diagnose, I'm just trying to inform and also share my opinion on the situation. Trisha obviously watched Anthony Padilla's DID YouTube video. I believe it was trending, and Dissociative was on it, as well as a couple of other systems. Dissociative was definitely the person that caught my attention when I was watching it. Don't really know where I'm going with that. Anyway, so Trisha watched it, and then the next day she comes out and she's like,
I have dissociative identity disorder.
She said that it is self-diagnosed, and I'm just going to say that doesn't make it any less true. For example, I have borderline personality disorder. I also have anorexia. They are two confirmed diagnoses. Diagnosis.
2 hours later.
But for example, I was originally diagnosed with depression and anxiety, because everyone is, and it took about 6 to 8 months for me to actually get a diagnosis. Trisha spoke about traits and how she's seen multiple doctors, and they've discussed how she has traits of certain disorders. When I was being, looked after, and we were trying to find out, what the extent of everything was with me, I had to fill in a lot of questionnaires. There was a lot of talking about the past, about the present, and there was a lot of multiple choice quizzes, things like that. And basically, everyone is going to have at least one trait of pretty much every disorder that is out there, because it's human nature. But you have to have a certain amount of traits to be diagnosed with something. So I do have traits of HBD because I like to stand out, if you hadn't noticed. Yeah. So I had a couple of traits, but nothing more than that. A couple of traits of NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder, because pretty much everyone does, which is very different than being like, oh my god, he's so narcissistic. It's different, okay? So I understand that she could be confused about whether she's actually got an illness, because I would be told I had traits of something, but it took like 6 to 8 months to actually get that as an official diagnosis, and it took a year to get an official diagnosis of anorexia. So in that time, I would say like, oh, they think I've got this. And obviously another thing to understand is that I've always had this. I've had BPD since I was a child because of the trauma I developed. It's just that now I know about it. So with DID is meant to go under the radar. You are not supposed to know you have DID. It is a defense mechanism in order to help the body survive. So it is very possible that Trish could have DID and not be diagnosed, especially because from the research that I did, I heard that it often takes around 7 years to actually get a diagnosis of DID, and there are a lot of experts and doctors and psychiatrists who still don't touch it. I don't particularly have an issue with her saying that that is what she thinks she has. The problem that I have is the way she spoke about it and the way we treated her. Let's just loop back to the Nikocado Avocado and Trisha Paytas mukbang beef.
I mean, you've got to take this all with a pinch of salt, but, you know, Nikocado Avocado, he played the violin for some reason, and Trisha replied, and then Nick went to LA to do a collab. He was going there anyway. They were going to do a collab, and then when he got there, Trish completely ignored him, and then she did a video saying how she's never even spoken to him, she doesn't really watch his stuff, he has no idea who he is.
That could be a sign of DID. If DID is supposed to go under the radar, it could be that she has DID. She might not have a lot of alters and they might not come out very often, but she might have it. I mean, the fact that she claimed so much that she did not know who Nikocado was and that she had no idea that they were meant to do anything, I mean, I just think that's an interesting thought. However, when I was going through getting diagnosed, I would often talk to people and I might say, you know, they think I have this. That is very different than filming a YouTube video saying I have something before I do, especially if I'm not willing to research it myself and I'm just going to watch one video and go,
yeah, that's me. Get the camera out.
And because of the timing, I just find it very suspect and I find it very... like, I'm not sure, you know, I want to believe that Trish did not do it with the intent to harm the community or the attempt to harm anyone. Stick with me. What she was describing, the way she was describing it, when I was getting diagnosed with BPD, the reason that I was hospitalized is because I said, I don't know who I am. I feel like I am playing a character. I feel like I might be putting on a front to make people think that I'm something that I'm not. And actually I feel like this and I do this and I don't know where the real Kez ends and these fake Kezes start. Because I'm so different around different people, which is normal, but to the extent that I genuinely was like, am I lying to myself? Like, do even I know who I am anymore? And that is a very common trait of borderline personality disorder. With BPD, you have a distorted perception of self and you have a constantly kind of changing perception of self. And I would describe me, like, in different situations as different Kezes. I was never talking about it like dissociative identity disorder because I can remember clearly all these different Kezes. And people would say to me, which is something that Trish said, and I have been through that. So I understand, especially if she has borderline personality disorder, that she really might not know who she is, and she might be clinging, trying to find out who she is. She also mentioned that when she went to England, she started, she adopted a British accent, and a lot of people were like, actually, no. I'm gonna debunk that right now. People with borderline personality disorder often pick up traits and accents quicker than other people. Because of this distorted perception of self, it leads often to other things like eating disorders, self-harm, depressive episodes, things like that, which I have experienced, and there's more of that on my channel, and there will be more on my channel. Let's keep on moving. People with BPD have a shifting perception of self, a distorted perception of self, and that means that they have this incredible desire and need to belong. They don't really know who they are. I don't really know who I am. Like, sometimes I think I do, and then, like, am I really? Are you though? I'm like, and it's just something that a lot of people with BPD have. And if you actually research it, you will find that there are studies that talk about how people with BPD adopt accents and mannerisms. They'll even change their style slightly, because most people with BPD have an incredible fear of abandonment, and they will cling to people. They will cling to people. And because of this distorted perception of self and this desire to be accepted, they constantly change who they are. You still with me? Right. I'm not going to diagnose anyone. I don't think that's sensible. But I am going to say that everything that she was talking about, I related to very much as someone with BPD. The reason that I struggled to watch that video, and the reason other people in the BPD community struggled to watch that video, is that she was presenting all this information as if they were alters and she had DID, which we're going to come back to in a second. But from a BPD perspective, she was basically talking about all of the traits and symptoms that people with BPD have, and those key things that she was talking about are reasons that people often perceive people with BPD to be manipulative and overly emotional, because our emotions can go from 0 to 100 in a second. But no, it is not the same as bipolar disorder. Can we stop asking that question, please? It's not the same. I'm dying inside. The fact that she was presenting them wrong was very harmful and very hurtful to the BPD
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
community, and I can say that because, like, your girl's been on Twitter. So focus. She was presenting it as DID, and it wasn't DID, so it was harmful to the DID community, and it was also harmful to the BPD community, because so many people, as a result, said she doesn't have DID. She's just a normal human being. But people with BPD, like me, can say, no, actually, that isn't a normal human being. That is, I'm cool. So yeah, for people like me, I'm looking at Trish and I'm saying, no, actually, that isn't all just like normal human stuff. That's not just stuff that every human being does. Because for her, it's
On another level.
It's not normal. I've never been a Trish fan. I'm just gonna say that now. I'm not subscribed to Trish, but I don't know. I saw a video, I think it was just before her and Jason broke up, and she was crying on the couch, and I genuinely thought that was real. I know a lot of people said that they thought that that was for attention, and maybe it was, but if she's got histrionic personality disorder and she's actually got a mental health disorder, can you still treat her the same and say that she's just looking for attention if she's actually got a mental health disorder? Think about it, because it kind of changes things up a bit, doesn't it?
George, can I talk to you for a second?
People don't know mental health unless they're in it. You know, I know mental health because my mum was a psychiatric nurse who tried to kill herself 3 times. Third time she was the charm, I guess. And I've suffered for years. I've been hospitalized. I have researched so I can work on myself, because that's the point of a diagnosis, so you can work on yourself. Maybe. Because whatever your diagnosis is, you are still responsible for what you do and what you say. When Trisha's talking about things that make her just sound like a normal person who thinks there's something wrong with her, to all you people that said that's everyone, it's not. Her knowledge of DID was terrible. The way she spoke about the alters that she had named herself was not okay. But again, the whole naming had like different emotions and different parts of herself, and it was almost like giving them their own identity. I did the same thing. Let's move on. So the way she was talking about her alters was not cool at all. The way she was talking about one of them dying. Now, as someone with BPD, I can understand what she's saying, because another common symptom of BPD is that you feel like you're losing yourself, you're losing a part of yourself, that you're not complete. And so I can understand where she was coming from. But that's BPD, not DID. Unfortunately, what she did inadvertently was basically just do this to everyone with BPD. And that video probably will make it much harder for people with borderline personality disorder to be treated fairly, to be treated like they genuinely have a disorder and they're not just looking for attention, and also more difficult for people with borderline personality to be accepted, which is what we need, to feel that we can trust others, for others to feel they can trust us. You know, it could be incredibly damaging to us. And I struggle so much with relationships. So much with, I don't know why I'm crying, so much with, I'm not crying. Okay. You know when you get that, you're like, hold it in, you've just done your makeup. I struggle a lot with relationships. I struggle a lot with emotional regulation. BPD, I don't think she meant to cause harm to the DID community. What she said about dissociative, I think this comes down to semantics. I think what Trish was trying to say was,
yeah, like, if I watched the video, if I didn't know anything about DID, if I didn't understand the illness, if I was, completely ignorant and I saw Dissociative and I saw one of her videos or I saw her switch, like, I would think, like, oh my god, she's crazy. But obviously, what I know from my experiences is that she's not crazy and that we shouldn't be calling people crazy. And in fact, she has a mental health disorder. A mental health disorder built on the fact that she had an incredibly traumatic childhood.
I think that's what she was trying to say. I think she was trying to say,
I would think like, oh my god, she's crazy, right? Or is crazy. But actually now, having watched Anthony Padilla's video, having understood my own mental health journey, I'm realizing that we really shouldn't be saying that someone's crazy and write them off as crazy, because they're not. They're ill and they've been through shit, and they don't need to be more stigmatized. They don't need to have people be scared of them. They don't need to be written off like they're just crazy and let's lock them up.
I genuinely want to believe that's what Trish meant. But she didn't understand DID well enough, because she didn't research it well enough to understand the way to phrase that. And she doesn't edit. She doesn't say something and then go, actually, no, like, what's the word? Censor. What am I doing with my hair? Sorry. She doesn't censor herself. She just speaks and then she uploads it. Like this video that I uploaded after I told a friend I had BPD. That's a riot, that one. I genuinely don't think she was calling Dissociative crazy. I don't know, maybe I'm being super, super naive about Trish. But I want to think that she genuinely took the information that she was given, which wasn't that much, and made the assumption and filmed the video. Yes, it was harmful, but the question really needs to be, what was her intent? Did she intend to cause harm? She may have intended to get a lot of views because she's known for doing that. And if that's why she did it, then trash. If that's why she did it, just because she was like, yeah, no, not cool. Trash. I don't think she meant to cause harm. I think she genuinely just doesn't understand the disorder. But I'm not saying that that was okay. She should apologize to Dissociative because whether intended or not, she kind of did call her crazy. And one thing that I know is that if you upset someone, you apologize. So many people upset someone and then they're like,
well, why are they upset? I'm not going to apologise for it because they shouldn't be upset about it. Like, I wasn't mean to them.
but if that person thinks you were mean to them, then you were mean to them and you should apologise. Too much hair. She does also need to apologise for the way it all came across, because whether intended or not, it did come across badly. Like, it's so difficult for me because I wrote on one of Dissociative's videos. It was horrible to watch, so I can't really even begin to imagine what it was like for someone with DID to watch that. But I said, yes, I'm sorry that she did this to you and I'm sorry that you're hurting, but at the same time I'm kind of not sorry because I found you and I actually got to learn so much more about the DID community and the illness, which I didn't know before. So yes, she needs to apologise, but it's Trisha Paytas, and when does she ever apologise? But I think there is a silver lining in that now a lot more people are aware of DID. A lot more people are wanting to learn. A point that I wanted to make is I went over to Dissociative almost as soon as she uploaded it because I was so shocked at how she got a response out so fast, being in the UK. And she says at the beginning, it's 3 a.m. and I was like, I like that attitude. I like that. But Dissociative had, I don't have screenshots or receipts, I just have my memory, and I swear she had around 440,000 subscribers, and at my last check she had like 520 or something. So a lot more people are wanting to learn about dissociative identity disorder now, and I think we can talk about the bad, but sometimes it's important to look for the good. Another thing I wanted to touch on was Trisha's response video to Anthony Padilla's story. I don't think Trish is like the smartest cookie, but because of Trish not necessarily being the smartest cookie in the cookie jar, I've never used that saying in my life, but okay. I find it hard to believe that she came up with this idea and she was like,
yeah, I'm gonna like make a video and I'm gonna call all these different personalities and I'm gonna say I've got DID and I'm gonna do it all because I really want to like hurt people with DID because I've got nothing against them, but like I just want to like make their lives harder for no real reason.
I don't think she did that. I don't think that's what she was doing. I think worst case she was trying to get attention, which I still would say is trash, but I think she might genuinely have been confused. Unfortunately, because it's Trish, everyone comes for her straight away. You're being so disrespectful.
How could she do this?
If you don't have it, stop attention seeking.
Blah blah blah. If she does have DID and she just didn't explain it well, that's causing her harm. If she has borderline personality disorder or histrionic personality disorder or any personality disorder, that is causing her harm. Yes, Trish needs to be held accountable for what she did, but at the same time, if all you do is throw hate at someone because they are sharing what they think is right, how do you expect that person to hear the truth? How do you expect that person to hear the people that are saying, please see a specialist? Hey, I understand that you probably got quite confused. I'm someone with borderline personality disorder and I wanted to let you know that I relate a lot to the things that you spoke about. And obviously that's not dissociative identity disorder, but I can relate, and from that, Trish could potentially learn something.
What?
She could learn that maybe she has BPD and she needs to see a specialist for it. She could learn that maybe she has HPD. She could learn that she isn't alone. She could make friends. Like, if no one had come for her and the only response had been Nin's response, or System K did a fantastic response. If the only response had been Nin's, for example, Trish might have been like, oh my god, I got this totally wrong. But because everyone goes for her, because everyone thinks she's a troll, and yes, maybe we could use the analogy of, she's like the boy who cries wolf, so no one's going to believe anything that she says anymore. I get it. I do. I get it. I get that she trolls. I get all that. But at the same time, I see someone who is like the same age as me and she is struggling to find herself, and I have struggled and am still struggling to find myself. I'm sure that there is something a psychiatrist would say about the fact that every day I put on completely different wigs and I'm like a different person. That's borderline personality disorder. So I think this whole holding YouTubers accountable thing and holding people accountable is true, but if people are coming up with snarky commentary videos and drama videos and trolling in the comments, how is she supposed to learn? How is she supposed to hear what she needs to hear? She's just going to write it all off as hate, like Gabby Hanna does. From what I gather, none of us want that. We're all upset on behalf of the DID and the BPD community. I will apologise now. I've been talking very much about DID and BPD, and if you have a mental health disorder and you felt, it was difficult for you to watch, then I'm in no way trying to say that it wouldn't. I'm just speaking from my perspective and from my, and I have BPD. So I don't mean any disrespect if you have another mental health disorder and you found it difficult. I'm not trying to discredit or disclude. Disclude? Is that a word? It's a word now. Disclude anyone. It's exclude. Thanks. Then we come to her response to that story. Now, I get what Anthony Padilla meant, but I will say that his story was incredibly passive aggressive. He could have maybe actually said something to Trisha.
What?
Instead of that, I understand that he was trying to protect Dissociative. I completely understand that, but at the same time, it was quite passive aggressive. And what was she supposed to learn from that story?
Move to trash.
As I said, if she was trying to mock the community, then she's trash. With the response to that video, she was incredibly heated. And trust me, that is called borderline personality rage. It has a name. Yay. Yay. It has a name. Borderline personality rage is something that people with borderline personalities struggle with a lot. I struggle with it a lot. I am still new to my borderline personality diagnosis. I try and work on myself as much as I can, but I still struggle a lot, especially with emotional regulation. When I saw her response, that's when I actually came to my current conclusion. If she hadn't posted that video to Anthony Padilla, I probably would be here shouting and screaming, which I was doing when I was watching the videos, and my fiance's there, and I'm just like, yes! Seeing her post that to Anthony Padilla video completely changed my perspective. It really made me think that she has borderline personality disorder. Again, I know I am not someone that can diagnose, and I am not trying to diagnose. What I'm trying to do is say, I understand her actions. I understand that feeling when someone does something like that and it hurts. It burns you. It scorches you.
Dracarys.
It makes you feel completely invalidated. It makes you feel like you are nothing, like you are someone on the bottom of someone's shoe who should be moved to trash. I mean, for someone with a personality disorder or an identity disorder to make a passive aggressive comment, it can be incredibly damaging. That is what led me to the conclusion that she's not trying to hurt anyone, and she...
Why are we still here?
My earring fell
Just to
out.
suffer every night.
They're posable. Doing the splits, look. Night fever, night fever. Don't know why that song came into my head. How old am I? If Anthony Padilla is genuinely trying to create a platform for people with mental health issues to be able to feel confident speaking out, to feel that they have a safe space online to talk about their truth, their story, their struggle, to post a passive aggressive story like the one that he posted,
Just to suffer.
it's not really okay, and it doesn't really seem professional to me. You have a YouTube channel, and I get that means you can pretty much do what you want to do, but I do feel that it was a bit passive aggressive. I do feel that was a little bit inappropriate and unprofessional, and I can understand why Trisha was so upset. And yes, I'm saying upset because most people would look at that rage and they would say, they write you off as overreacting and angry and furious. But being someone who does that on occasion,
NANI?
I don't believe she was angry. I don't believe she was furious. I believe she was devastated. I believe she felt awful. I believe she felt that she tried to do something and it was okay for everyone else to do their truth, but as soon as she did hers, she gets passive aggressive comments. I believe she was incredibly invalidated and just genuinely incredibly upset. And for people who struggle to regulate emotions, being incredibly upset and being incredibly angry can get very confused, especially because angry is more positive. Angry is an emotion that you feel you can do something. It's empowering. Whereas sad is the opposite. So it's very easy for people like me and other people with BPD to struggle with those emotions, and for being incredibly sad to come across as very angry. I don't believe that video or those stories were okay from Trisha's perspective either. But unfortunately, we could sit here and dissect the entire thing until the cows come home and find like this wasn't okay, this wasn't okay. But at the end of the day, we're looking at one person. We're looking at Trish. And yes, the shorthand is she uploaded a video. She hurt at least 2 communities that I know of. And let's include just the general mental health community in itself. Let's include the LGBT community in that. So that's 4 or 5. And let's include other people that just found it offensive because it's offensive. Like, yes, I get that. I do. And I get that her reaction to Anthony Padilla was also, I mean, I reported it. While I can sit here and defend Trisha from a perspective of someone with borderline personality disorder and the struggles that we have and the struggles that I have, equally, I am responsible for my actions.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Even if I do something and I let my emotions get the better of me and I do something inappropriate, I still have to apologize for that. And Trish still needs, in my opinion, to do the right thing and to apologize. It's that simple. But equally, can we not learn from this? Not to rush to judgment and not to just throw hate at someone as soon as they come out, especially with something that important, that personal. If someone tells you that they have BPD, or if someone tells you that they have DID, they are telling you, I had a really traumatic childhood. So maybe instead of rushing to judgment, because you know, like, we can make the reference to The Boy Who Cried Wolf. You know what happens at the end? There's a big fucking wolf. So similarly, yes, Trish might have done things or said things that other people felt were inappropriate, and they could have potentially been spurned on from this lack of understanding and this distorted perception of self, which is why she clings to things that are in the zeitgeist. That is not to say that one day she's not going to publish a video. That is true. And if all we can do is hurl abuse at her and call her a troll, no one deserves to have poor mental health. And if someone is trying to be honest about it, then you hurling abuse at her, that doesn't educate her, that doesn't help fix the situation, it just hurts her. If all of the comments had been educational comments, she might have learned something from this, but she's not going to now because there's too much hate. And she probably won't apologise because there's so much hate, she doesn't understand the actual problem. She doesn't understand that her lack of understanding of DID had a negative impact. She doesn't understand that what she's basically describing is very similar to BPD, and that unfortunately, because of the way she talked about it, it made people with BPD feel like pieces of crap. And it made people with DID feel, I don't know, bullied, stigmatized, highlighted in a negative way. And any of us who have mental health issues, like, we didn't ask for them. It's like when someone comes up to one of my YouTube videos and they dislike it and then they leave, and I'm like, why? And I get really upset about it because you clicking dislike on one of my videos doesn't explain to me why you disliked it. Is it that you don't like me? And if you don't like me, what is it about me that you don't like? Is it something I need to change about myself, or is it just, you know, that you just don't like me? Because that's something brought you to my video, right? So why would you dislike it and then not want to share any feedback? And I feel that that's pretty much the situation here. I feel like Trish could have got a lot out of this. I feel like the DID community has gained a lot from it. A lot of people are interested in it now. I feel like the BP I cannot say it. BPD. I can't. BPD. People with BPD. The BPT community. BPT? What? No. People from the borderline personality disorder community have hopefully gained a lot because people are voicing opinions, people are sharing their stories, their truths, people are explaining why Trish was wrong, people are sharing intimate stories about parents that had DID. I'm sharing stuff about having BPD. I said it. Oh, yeah! The whole YouTube sphere right now is flooded with people talking about mental health, and a lot of what I've seen is good. So yes, Trish messed up. Trish should apologise, but I don't think she intended it. I think it was ignorance, which isn't an excuse, but that's what I think it was. And I think had we not rushed to judgment and hurled abuse at her, we might have a very different situation on our hands, and Dissociative may have gotten that apology. So if you're still here, thank you for sticking with me. There'll be a poll here. If you could take a few seconds just to answer that. It's completely anonymous and it would just help me know, you know, if you think I'm being too nice on Trish. If you enjoyed the video, please do click that thumbs up button. As you're already here, you might as well, you know, just click subscribe while you're at it. Hit that bell. In the comments below, please say anything you want to say, just be respectful about it, please. I'm very interested in having a conversation. I'm very interested in opening this conversation up. I passed the unicorn to you, and let's talk about it. So I'll give you a big kiss. Highlight, you know, Rosalie and Einhorn. And I will say arigatou gozaimasu. And keep on unicorning and keep on being awesome and be nice, be understanding, because this world is hard enough already. Okay. But keep unicorning though. Bye. Bye. BPD. BBT. Can't BBT. 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 Oh my god. BBD. Oh. D. B B B P D. B B P D. BBT.